left them off your hand. Good boy.
You just get used to it after a while, just live with a little sauce.
I'm over it.
Must have stuck together.
If you heard the way the thing sounds.
No, I love it when they come right to you. The junior high kids are the best. The junior high kids are good. They'll come right to you. Mr. Herington, I don't feel good. Brenda. Thank you. I appreciate that. The resolution.
Go ahead and call to order this October 3 meeting of the Herington City Commission. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Consider minutes of the meeting from September 19, 2017. See anything here? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the September 19th meeting.
Second. Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Nessler?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Stanford?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Souza?
Aye. Discussion and review of appropriation ordinance P0922-17. Moving on. Public forum. Rick Freeman regarding the mini mall.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just tried to see if there's an update, wanting to basically find out if anything has actually been filed yet with the court system.
It's on the agenda.
I'm gonna say, yeah, I think that's what
Yes,
this
number
letter
7.
was for.
It's number 7.
All right. So you'll get your update here in about 5 minutes. Hopefully that's DJ Newberger regarding answers from the hospital.
Yeah, about a month and, almost a month and a half back, I think, there was a meeting between the city commission and the hospital board trying to get some answers. And at that time, I thought there was going to be another meeting between the two boards set up so we could have some answers before, the voting in November, the midterm elections. Is there any date on that yet?
We as in I, just received some of those answers last week. I say some of because it was definitely partial received. Some of the financial information was received. It was not detailed like was promised. And I received that from Brian Bina on behalf of the board. So Mr. Meisinger did not give any responses like he said when I met with him in his office. I will get with Phyllis to see if we can find a date, and that was something that I was going to ask the commission about tonight, availability, to make sure that we have
Okay,
a
because
day that we can all make it.
I don't know about all the other voting personnel in town or voting populace in town, but I'm somewhat concerned with where the hospital is going. They just hired a CFO, financial officer, for $144,000 a year. The interim manager is $72,000 for 6 months. That's another $144,000 a year. And from what I read in the paper, their August revenues, granted they had a lot of unpaid revenues, but there were $300-some thousand in the hole in August. So
And a lot of these
I've
questions,
got some really,
a lot of those questions can also be asked directly to the HMH board. They have their regular meeting the 4th Tuesday of every month, which is why, we changed the land bank
which is
meeting
why
date.
we changed the land bank. I'm on the land bank. I did not have the option until we changed that date of going to that board meeting.
But you can also get their contact emails, and they're fairly decent with responding.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that was all we have for the public forum. Additional agenda items. I saw we do have one executive session. Go ahead and put that at 10A, just one regarding litigation.
Can we get that one moved up to 6A? I'm told that we need to.
We don't need it.
We don't need it anymore?
No.
Then we'll scratch it all together.
Yep, scratch it all together.
Okay,
Okay.
I would like to get in at 6A then, if possible, or 7A, whichever the commission deems best. But I have Doug Kinsinger and as well as Ben Meyer here that want to talk to the commission concerning new economic development going on here in the county.
6A is fine.
Which one?
6A.
6A?
No reason to wait.
Okay, because this litigation session was canceled, we'll go ahead and put 10A, executive session regarding non-elected personnel to protect the privacy of the individual involved.
Madam Mayor, were you gonna put on there anywhere on the agenda to ask about the possibility of hosting another?
At the end, I was going to.
We can actually do that during comments.
Oh, okay,
I had it written down, I made notes.
all right,
All right, do I have any other additions?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda with the additions of 6A and 10A.
I'll second. Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Nessler? Aye. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Stanford?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Souza?
Aye. Number 7.
6A.
6A. See? I have it written down and everything. My God. All right, 6A.
Hello, I'm Ben Meyer. My family and I own Custom Metal Fabricators here in town. And about a month ago, we were approached by the Dickinson County Economic Development Corporation about a new program that they've got started. They've retained the services of opportunity funding to develop and implement a fundraising plan as well as a 5-year operational plan. And CMF has put our support behind it, both personally and financially. And Doug and I are here to provide you guys more information. Hopefully that the city of Herington will also be supportive of it. And so I'd like to introduce Doug Kinsinger. He is in charge of opportunity funding, and hopefully between the two of us we can answer any questions you might have. So Doug Kinsinger.
Thank you, Ben. We'll keep this brief to about 10 minutes and then see if you have questions that you'd like to ask. But I do want to make sure I try and answer anything that you're interested in. Ben and I and one of the other DKUDC board members met with City Manager Patton a couple of weeks ago, and he suggested that we would bring this information to you. And I think, Dave, you were at our kickoff event last week, right?
Yes.
We were very pleased with the turnout. We had about 130 people countywide, and were able to announce at that early stage, that was our first kind of formal public announcement, that we'd already received $777,000 in pledges towards $1 million goal. In fact, before I left the office today, we're at $800,000. So, on the right-hand side of your packet, on just this one page that says Driving Dickinson County, at the very top it'll say Executive Summary. I want to refer to that and have you pull it out to review. So just to share briefly, our organization was retained by the Dickinson County Economic Development Corp. It's a fairly new organization, only about 2 years old. It's a private nonprofit. Its purpose is economic development countywide. It has representation from throughout the county, and They retained our firm last fall to do a feasibility study for them to try and help guide them in the development of a 5-year strategic plan, determine what would be the highest priorities from leaders across the county, what would be effective in helping grow the economy in Dickinson County, and then what would be a method to implement that, what would be the cost to do that and a plan to do so. So on the first half of that page, you'll see some gold or orange highlights outlining the 4 initiatives of the plan. The first one is business retention and expansion. That one received the highest support from our 60 interviews that we conducted in the feasibility study. And I must share with you, having done economic development since I was 20, 38 years now, that is the first thing they teach us in economic development school. If you're not supporting and growing and nurturing your existing businesses, that's really where 80 to 85% of your growth can come from if you do your job properly. And I want to emphasize it is a much more detailed, specific effort than many people perceive that as. Gee, the economic development person just stops by and thanks that person for their investment in the community and we're glad you're here. This is a much more extensive, detailed interview process of really trying to understand that company's challenges and opportunities, understanding where their raw materials come from, who are their customers, are they planning an expansion, are they planning any cutbacks, do they own their own facilities, do they have enough room to grow on, do they need more land, do they lease their building, do they own their building, do they have enough utility access, how's their road access, do they need rail access, how's their broadband capacity, the list goes on. And once you begin to develop a more extensive knowledge of both those challenges and opportunities for that company, a qualified economic developer can really help guide them with solutions and methods to help them grow. So that is the first and highest priority, and I can tell you in my interviews working now in Dickinson County for about 6 months, we've already found 2 or 3 projects, and Ed and I have been kibitzing back and forth on several, and he's been sharing some good opportunities here and ideas, and I've been trying to help him in those. Business recruitment and marketing, that is kind of the next area, and that's the next area of business attraction, and I want to have you keep in mind every employer, every business has a life cycle. Some products are maybe a little bit more mature. Many of us in the old days might have thought, gee, having a call center for a telephone operation with all those operators was, gee, we'd love to have that. Guess what? The phone companies no longer have call centers for operators. And I have formerly been, one of my roles earlier in my career, I was the Chamber of Commerce president in Topeka. When I moved to Topeka, I learned that they had a buggy whip manufacturer there as part of their history. Gee, if they would have relied on trying to help grow and nurture that buggy whip company, they wouldn't be too far where they are today. So I want to encourage each community needs to think about their natural assets and what are the kinds of employers that they could attract that might have those longer life cycles that would help counterbalance the ones that are here. Ben and Christie's company is a good example of a good base that you have. You have a lot of metal fabrication in Dickinson County. You have some ag-related companies, food processing, grain storage, grain processing. Things that are in that area would probably be natural assets. You have quite a bit more rail access. You have a big rail yard, and rail access property and the kind of rail support that you have is very unusual. It is not a easy to come by or cheap asset. So I want to comment that that is something that could be taken to your advantage. Third area is entrepreneurship. Everybody thinks about how can we help small business, how can we help start up young businesses that are thinking of owning or starting their own company. And I'd give you one example that would marry those two things together. Every community in Dickinson County has some long-time family businesses that have been around for a while, and I've seen some in the time period that I've been here that 6 months before they plan to retire, they put their for sale sign outside their door, and nobody beats down their door to come buy their company, and 6 months later they retire, the county and your town loses an employer, and that business owner loses the monetary value of their business, normally you'd get 4 or 5 times annual earnings of the sale of your company, and that could be a great contribution towards their retirement. Well, this organization can't be the expert in everything, but it needs to have enough capacity and enough experience to be able to help do triage so that they can help that business person understand probably what you really need is a succession plan. And you know what? We don't wait till 6 months before you want to retire. We start 5 years. We help find the right person with the right skill sets and interests and morals that you have that you want to work with, and you work over a period of time to start selling them part of your company. And you know what? When they have enough equity in your company and they have enough ownership, maybe then they can get a conventional bank loan to buy the rest of your company, and you can retire free and clear, get all of your cash out, and the county and the town keeps an employer, and that business person gets some monetary value for their retirement. There's a lot of different needs. Some businesses might be marketing towards a younger market and might need, maybe they're not as attuned to the need of social media. Maybe DKEDC needs to help connect them to someone who can help them do a social media plan. Maybe they are not attuned to watching their inventory and it's maybe going out the back door faster than it's coming in the front door. So maybe there's a way to help them develop inventory control systems or other things. The point I want to make is DKEDC plans to and wants to have the right resources in place to help your small businesses grow and prosper by connecting them to the right resources and helping them solve their problems. And then lastly, our company has actually been doing these kinds of services in the state of Kansas for a little over 15 years. We've helped Manhattan, Topeka, Lawrence, Ottawa, Seneca, Potawatomi County, Hutchinson, the list goes on. And we know from experience who is doing what and what they're spending in marketing. And right now, Dickinson County isn't even on the playing field. What you need to do is work together. Your competitors are not your neighbors. They're the rest of the world. And you need to work together to market the assets. So what I would share on the front of your packet is a new logo that was designed for free for the organization, which is to be reflective of the entire county. And I want to point out something. You know, as you look at it, okay, it's nice and modern. The star in the middle was designed for a specific reason. You'll see it has 9 points on it to represent each of the 9 major communities in the county and to be a daily reminder to the organization, to its leadership, to the staff, and to the board, we're serving the entire county. And in fact, as they've redone their website in the last 3 months, there's a page on each community that needs more data and more information. It needs more of your business sites and more of your opportunities, but it's got a great foundation and a great beginning to really begin to help market the area. So a little bit on those items. If you turn the page over, you get what you measure. And what I want to point out is that this organization has worked hard. We've worked with a group. Ben and his wife Christy have been some of about 60 volunteers. They helped us agree on what should be our performance measures for success. So the organization, to hold itself accountable over the next 5 years, is saying we plan to create 250 jobs countywide, 50 jobs per year, at wages that are $33,773 median, which is about 15% above the current median wage currently. We want to raise the standard of living. We don't focus on lower income or minimum wage jobs. We want to attract $50 million worth of investment, and some people have said, 50 million, is that possible? That's 10 million a year, and that is countywide, and that is only projects that this organization can document that they have a significant level of involvement in helping them find a site, in helping them with a local incentive, a state incentive, finding a workforce, dealing with regulatory or a permitting issue, helping them, enable them to grow and expand or come to the area. And then the last performance measure I feel is still one of the most important, is those 30 existing business interviews, developing a relationship with those key employers and helping them meet their challenges and their opportunities. So that's kind of a quick overview. I'll just highlight, right behind that piece is a document that says prospectus. That is a much more detailed version of our strategic plan. If you open that up, the first 2 pages are a little bit of background and history, and then following that are some of the strategic plan, and it outlines the strategies and the performance measures, and then it'll even go through in the budget there towards the end. So, the other things I would refer you to on the left side of your packet should be it says a report of economic impact. We're trying to demonstrate why do we want to do this, what's the benefit to our community and our entity. We commissioned a very thorough economic impact report that took those performance measures, the 250 jobs, the 50 million in investment at the wages. And you'll see as you open it up, I've highlighted the first 15 years, the impact from those 250 jobs would create another 195 indirect jobs, so a total almost 450 jobs in the county. And as you go back, it shows where their discretionary income, where those employees would be spending their money on groceries and restaurants and housing and insurance and healthcare, all different sectors of the economy. But for you and your leadership roles at the city, I'd ask you to turn, it'll at the bottom show page 14, and it talks at the top about cost and benefits to the county, cities, and school districts. And again, this defines the economic impact to local governments. And I'll point out, so Dickinson County is delineated, all of the cities are delineated. I think if I've got the right copy, I've highlighted Herington. And this is a 15-year period. Those jobs that this organization should be working on should be here a minimum of 30 or 40 years, but for a 15-year period. And it breaks out the estimated sales tax, property tax, utility, water, sewer revenue, utility franchise fee, transient guest tax, other revenue. So if you turn it to the next page, shows the total income over that 15-year period, about $3.5 million would be the projected benefit to Herington. And then if you turn to the page following that, page 16 at the bottom, this is from a company that does research and knows your tax rates, knows the expenditure patterns, what your costs are based on your budgets. And they looked at cost of services for new residents, for utility services. Total cost, they calculated right around $570,000 just for the city of Herington. And then the last page, you'll see a summary of the benefits and costs. So potentially a net benefit of just a little under $3 million to the city of Herington. So with that, I would share that our organization has made a request of City Manager Patton to consider, and we would appreciate anything you could consider, but our mission is to, and this immediate task is to raise $1 million. I announced that I'm at $800,000. Those are from 40 different investors all across the county, and significant amounts from a variety of all of the communities. We've requested that your city consider a pledge of support of $4,000 per year over the next 5 years, or a total of $20,000, as being a partner in our effort. And I shared with Ed, I mentioned this is to help hire a much better qualified, experienced economic developer, that you would not be able to afford a portion of that person if you tried to hire them yourselves. And I believe that you'll get a very good return on your investment should you participate in this. So with that, I'll stop and see what questions I can answer. Dave, I know you were at the meeting. I don't know if you picked up anything there that you wanted to comment on.
The biggest thing I saw at the meeting there in Abilene is an increased emphasis on county-wide. When we first started talking about the Dickinson County EDC, if you went to the preliminary meetings, it was Dickinson County EDC, but pretty much the only thing that was mentioned was Abilene. That eccentricity wasn't there at this last meeting. It was countywide. It was, this is what we're going to do as a county, and that was refreshing.
And I'll address that just a little bit, Dave, from the standpoint of, I mean, that as being kind of the outliers in the county, I mean, that is the natural perception for Herington. I mean, that's the history. There's some specific examples of why that's the case. But as we got involved in this process and met the people involved in it, I mean, Christy and I and our company feels that there's a genuine effort to combine the resources of the entire county. And, as we got into it and start talking about, as the Herington representatives to the commission, what resources Herington has, the realization came not only to them, but to me as well, that Herington has a lot of resources that the other communities in the county don't have. And the opposite is true. I mean, there's things in, Solomon, and there's things in Chapman that we don't have. But the point is if we work together and combine our resources, we're going to be a much stronger force. And when we talk about being a force, we're not talking about just in central Kansas. I mean, and not even in the Midwest or the Great Plains. I mean, we're talking about, the entire United States as far as trying to attract businesses, and whether it's new startups or expansion of what's going on here. I mean, we need to be able to have the resources. And, personally, from CMF standpoint, part of the reason we got involved was somewhat selfish. I mean, we have positions open at our shop that we're not able to fill because we don't have qualified applicants. And so the more, part of the exciting thing for us is talking about the increase of jobs. That's going to bring more people to the county, which is going to give us, all of us, anybody involved in business, whether it's manufacturing, retail, whatever, a larger pool to draw from, and obviously increase all the other positive things that happen. So to address your concern, I kind of started rambling there, Dave, I'm sorry. To address your concern, but to address your comment, I mean, I am confident that the direction that's happening right now is countywide.
Yes,
And the benefit.
The difference was very tangible. When my wife Wendy was involved in the initial process with the county EDC, and it started going in a different direction. But like I said, that last meeting in Abilene, different atmosphere. Great deal of respect for the Myers and the Copes who were both involved in this, and it was, I loved it. Great to see.
So I think in closing, if there's any other questions, we're happy to do that. But we would ask that you guys give serious consideration to the request and participate in whatever level you feel is within your means. So, okay. Any other questions or anything?
I think to probably take a minute to digest the information before we get to ask questions. But if we do have questions, Doug, we're able to contact you?
Yes, please, either on my email or my cell phone, whatever is easiest. I'd welcome a phone call, and I'm available 24/7.
And most of you know how to get a hold of me at any given time, so.
I did make a comment to Sarah, it's kind of strange to see you over there and us over
We're a
here.
little backwards
Yeah.
here.
Usually I'm sitting over there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So,
Thank you for the opportunity.
thank you for the
Well,
time.
thank you very much for coming to see
All right,
us.
Thank you,
thanks.
Ben. Thank you,
Thanks.
Doug. The only other question I have, and that would be for them, is where is a potential plan, or what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a great idea. I think that they are sincere. And, if the commission wishes to participate in this, then I'll put a plan together and have it ready by the next meeting. Have it broke down over the period that you guys want to work with. I'll give you 3 or 4 different examples for you.
Yeah, and I'd especially like to know, budget-wise, how this.
Yeah, where are we going?
Granted, it's not a great deal of money, but we still need to know.
It's still money regardless.
Absolutely.
And we don't have,
Basically know it's
extras
gonna come out of
floating.
the general.
What made
Where?
it easy was tonight, he said over the next 5 years.
Yes.
Originally it was over the next 4 months. Okay? And this year and next year, but basically we get rid of this month, you only had 3 months, or 2 months to meet in November and December. And I'm going, because I know that we're in no shape to come up with that 4th all at once, but still be able to ensure that we do the work that we need to do between now and the end of the year. But given that it's over a 5-year period, now we have some time to look at and make plans for it. And I would recommend, you know, if you would like, I can do it, or we can all do it, notifying all the businesses about this. I can print off these documents in here for that we can deliver the package to all of the business entities that are here in town. And that way they'll have the information to see if they want to participate. It's up to you. That's what I mean.
I think probably the first one is just
Yeah.
being a budgetary, so how, it's a good idea, but how do we do it? I agree. The next meeting, I don't know.
Because it definitely sounds like something that we need to consider. I would have loved to have been at the first meeting that I had prior.
It was a completely different atmosphere,
Yeah, it was.
honestly.
Because I've been over to the county offices when the prior director was there, and I walked in and then I walked out. I realized they have their own opinion of us, but that decided it wasn't going anywhere. And I have to talk to Brad, I think it's ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, gentlemen.
All right, now number 7. Consider a resolution for condemnation, resolution 897. And this is a resolution of the city of Herington, Kansas, fixing a time and place for a show cause hearing pursuant to Chapter 2, Article 3, Section 2306 of the Code of the City of Herington, Kansas, duly adopted by the City of Herington, Kansas. Rick, this is a condemnation resolution for 5 West Walnut, more commonly known as the Mill. I'm not gonna read this whole thing, because I know you guys don't like that.
How long of a date do we need to give this? Since it is a published item.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, by way of overview here, we've retained independent counsel who does these kinds of cases regularly, who's also worked for the city of Herington previously, when we were working with Hodge and several others, Raytheon. We spent quite a bit of time, he and I, and then also I got the city manager involved in that last week for a fairly lengthy conference to kind of examine globally again all of our choices, which included some other forms of litigation. In evaluating those alternatives, none of them, suffice it to say, probably had a great deal of chance of success that weren't already inherently packaged with the condemnation proceeding. For those who weren't here, you can look back and I can provide you with copies. We did this 2 years ago. We stopped cold at the point of the 6-figure numbers. They're still 6-figure numbers. I know that there's this interest, but the taxpayers are gonna pick up the tab, and I'm telling you that right now, so it's on the record. There are the brownfield grants. I've spent quite a bit of time on the phone with people at K-State, as our other council has worked with a number of times to try to put that together, to successfully put a grant application in place, with the hope that you can receive all or a portion of those funds. But there's no absolute guarantee, and those grants continue to ratchet downward in terms of availability. So, when you initiate this process, it's my intent this time that it won't stop. And when we get there, it's kind of a be careful what you wish for, because the likelihood is fairly great we're going to end up with this. We don't end up with the inherent liability for anything in terms of the environmental impact. We don't end up with anything in terms of tangential or adjacent property damage. We end up with enforcing our jurisdictional right to take a piece of property in town and say it does not meet code, it's inherently a public safety risk or a nuisance, or whatever term you want to utilize in that particular circumstance, meets all of those standards. when we proceed ahead. The only reason I'm not using the one from 2015, it was published, and there is no limitation on the back end of that. It feels a little wrong. I've never had one where we waited 2 years to do something, coupled with the fact that on August, I ran the limited certificate through Security First to make sure I had ascertained all ownership interests. There has really been no material change other than another years of tax delinquency, which stretch now from 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, exclusively unpaid, ranging from $1,840 to about $2,200 per year. And there has been instituted as of August 10th. In 17 CV 85, Dickinson County did file the tax foreclosure action. Means nothing. You go ahead and do it because you have to. If no one bids in, it's just going to sit there and nothing will have changed. Someone bids in, all you've done is exchanged one owner for another. If you get really lucky, which is rare, someone takes it and actually goes through the whole thing, cleans it all up and does all that. It's possible. There are a lot of things that are possible.
We're not in the miracle department.
Yeah, as we get to Christmas, you believe in it more. I don't in this particular case because I don't see that anyone's going to expend those kind of funds. So they will be part and parcel of this. I've called the county. I'm still trying to chase everybody down that would be involved in that to let them know that, you know, we'll do this independent of you. The tax element of it still remains out there. We don't inherit that either, and if we did in some fashion, if for some reason, if we worked out something where the property were deeded to the city, probably run it through the land bank, so we suspend the ad valorem. We're not getting anything now, we wouldn't get anything then, we just wouldn't be continuing to accrue them, because we're not holding it for city use, so we're not going to go through the Court of Tax Appeals and take it off the tax rolls. We'd just be carrying it. So, there was extensive discussion about ways that we could rehab that property less expensively, turn it into a shell that's available for someone to go ahead and utilize for a business setting and then use it as an economic development asset or tool, a la what we're discussing here. You've got a corner property that's, from the outside, I mean, once it's all done, it doesn't have a lot of problems on the outside. It's the interior that we've got a problem, and a roof, and air conditioning, and electrical, and plumbing, you name it.
Everything but the framework.
That's a good way to
That's
put
walls.
it. And to some extent, the
That's
framework.
The frame's bad too.
Well, we've got some issue with that because of
Ruin my
the,
night, Mark.
we discussed the fact that you've got porous cinder. You got, and you have permeated both green and black mold that have gone all the way through it. I don't know, the only way you fix that is to seal it in most cases. And that is possible. We discussed that at length the other day. He being Chris Steinkamp had been through that process with several projects where they had engineers go in, and it is acceptable. It can be done by either EPA or KDHE as their agent in this state. It can be approved, and it can be safe. But it's expensive, it is time-consuming. There's nothing about this that I can sit here and paint a really optimistic picture about. But it's where you are. This starts that process again. What happens in terms, and I didn't hand that out and I will bring it for you, the kind of the timeframes and the checklist, plus I know I've handed out in past experiences where we've got our hearing process, but we'll notice up the owner. There is just one owner. That's all been confirmed by Security First. We'll notice up the county because they've initiated the tax foreclosure proceeding. It's published twice, 2 consecutive weeks. We must have the hearing no less than 30 days after the second publication. We must notice everyone up within 3 business days of the first publication. If we don't put it in this week, it really doesn't harm us any, because the only way that's going to work on that 30 days, the way these fall next month, is using the 21st of November for the hearing, to get it set up by the time the publication is done and the 30 days have run. At that hearing, that determination is made if someone's going to rehab it, meaning the current owner, and assuming they're not, which has been the past experience we've had, then what you do is make the determination as the hearing body. Is it repairable? Well, yes it is, but you give the owner the opportunity and so long to do it. The last time you gave them 60 days. My recommendation is probably going to be 30, and I know that's unrealistic too, but unless someone comes in here and says, man, I'm going to do it, and here's my time frame, and here's a plausible schedule of how that's going to happen, I don't see the reason to sit there for that additional 30 days.
Right.
At the end of that 30, anytime thereafter, we can begin. In the 60 days that this is going to take, we already discussed that last week, we're going to put together a fairly detailed set of alternatives, and so that by the time you get there, you can hit the ground running. Pick one. But all of them are going to be the lesser of economic evils. Where that money's going to come from, I cannot tell you. But that's where you're going to be. So, okay? That's what you got. So, now you get, that's why you get the big dollars. You guys get to choose if you want to start this process again.
We can get a name tag for him that says Grinch.
Just don't want to leave
Just give us a
anything
message.
unsaid about what this is not one of those processes where you go, wow, this has got a rainbow at the end. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
So then,
There's no guarantee we're gonna find anybody that'll want to buy it once we renovate it and it's ready to
honestly,
go.
what I'm kind of thinking, much as I hate it, because this is why I've been against tearing it down the whole time, I was afraid we'd end up with something like this. Tear it down and make it a public parking lot. It's only gonna be the cheapest thing. I know, but
It's just such
It's
a
a
gap tooth
possibility.
downtown on a big corner.
And you still have to do all the remediation anyway.
Oh, yeah, I know, I know that.
Make it parking lot.
But otherwise, we're
The
gonna
cost
end
of
up with.
sealing it and all of this other stuff.
Oh, I know. But my
Where do
fear
we
is
draw
it's
the
going to
line?
end up being a shell like numerous other buildings downtown.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, my,
Yes.
that's my way, we're gonna put all this
At
money
least
into
we
it.
could, you know, have a public parking lot for busy downtown days.
Fortunately, the ceiling part of it will be easy, because it's gonna be a totally gutted building. It can be sprayed in and sealed, which will take a lot less time.
I wasn't worried that it was gonna be hard, I'm just worried about how much money are we gonna put into it to then maybe not find a buyer and it's gonna sit there and be unused like half of the rest of it. You're gonna buy
We
it,
have no
okay,
choice
can
at
you
this
like
point.
sign that right now?
Half a block down from there, actually about 40 feet down from there is a perfect example of what happens when you put a whole
Great.
bunch of money into a building
And then it doesn't.
and it sits there.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere near as expensive as this is going to be, and it's a whole lot better and more usable.
And I think
That's
that's
for down the road, so.
one reason that you guys should consider why the EDC folks that just came in here said, because maybe that's something we ought to take to them and say, hey, what would be your recommendation with this building? Since they're the experts on it, or more knowledgeable than me, these ways, on doing it. Is there hope for it? I would like that answer if there is.
Well,
You
and they
need to
might-
know that.
They might very well be useful, helpful as far as trying to find grant avenues.
Or
that's
somebody
what it's
wants
gonna
to
take.
remediate, maybe they'll be able to find somebody who it's a nice location for.
It is going to take state or higher support on this, because we can't afford it.
I'll give you the best grant effort I can, but that's no guarantee that you're gonna get the grant.
It kinda sucks, cause it's one of those, we can't afford it, but
It needs to
you
be
can't
done.
afford to let it sit there any
It has
longer
to be
either. I mean,
done.
it is a no-win situation at this point, something has to be done.
And we did seriously look, just so that for everyone's benefit, look at what other alternatives might exist, including somehow coercing someone else to do it. The likelihood that you'd expend significant funds and still be sitting here having this conversation 6 months from now is pretty great. Great enough that I didn't even see that as worth continuing to pursue.
Unless we can somehow tie it to other property in town that certain people own, which we can't
You know, I went through that pretty exhaustively.
I was gonna say, I know we had that discussion.
So are we thinking of November 21st?
Yeah, that's what you're.
That's the earliest.
Whatever,
What's
earliest,
the publication date, Brenda, on the newspapers? Wednesday or Thursday of each week?
It comes out, well, it comes out Thursday.
Dated
Yeah,
Thursday or
dated
dated Wednesday? I never remember.
Thursday.
We wouldn't be able to get it in, well, it wouldn't matter, whether it was this week or next, yeah. It's next week, you have to assume it's your first publication, and the following, so the 11th and 18th, and 30 days is still gonna be the 21st of November, which is, that's the date in November, that's the earliest we can have it.
The only other thing I see
Yeah,
County.
that's my fault. I saw that just a little bit ago, so yes.
I just actually got lucky and jumped out a second ago, and I'm like, ooh, I got something to say.
Oh, yeah, TJ?
Yeah, question more or less for Brad. If somebody were to buy it, like you said, strange things do happen. Instead of just granting them 30 or 60-day extension, can you make them post a performance bond to back up their word?
You, yes and no, you can. I will say yes. That's a little bit tougher to do, and then we get into the reasonableness nature of that. Usually what we do is they come in, and this body can ask them for a very detailed schedule of how they intend to go about rehabbing the structure with the budget. And then as part of that, it's not always necessarily a bond, it can be showing financial security with a letter of credit from a bank, it can be a number of things. It's a good point, because somebody can come in, I can come in and tell you, yeah, I'm gonna spend $1.5 million over the next 6 months. It's not gonna happen. But, you know, so you can go ahead and ask for some confirmation that they are creditworthy or sufficiently economically well-heeled that they can do what they're proposing to do, as opposed to, well, I hope I'll win the lottery, and then I'd be able to do everything I'm telling you I can do. So yes, short form answer is yes.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 897.
Second.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor, I will note the change for county and.
Yes.
That would be big.
I haven't changed how much, you can just use it as what I make the motion off of.
I'll fix it. Yeah, well, I'm filling it in, assuming that it's approved, the 21st of November is what I intend to use.
Yeah.
You had said publication dates being the 11th and the 18th, and the 12th and the 19th.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was Thursday.
that's not specified anywhere.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I
I see your
just
point.
saw the line up there and I was like.
I was thinking Wednesday, but if it's Thursday, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Commissioner Messer?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Stanford?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Susan?
Aye.
Never said the job was easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that we're paying the same tax.
Yeah. Number 8, consider the reappointment of one member to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 3-year term. Term to expire October 24, 2020. One applicant we have for reappointment is Ron Strickland.
And I'm sorry I can't access, for some reason I got here and my main email started messing up. But I got a concern, I don't know if everybody else did or not, from ACES, and since there are questions about the zoning issues on Strickland's property right now, then maybe we ought to consider not having him on that board for now. Could be a conflict of interest for him.
I don't share that concern.
I was just stating what, I have no position either way, really, I'm just saying that for happens.
And I do understand the concern, I just don't share it. Make a motion, we reappoint Ron Strickland to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a 3-year term to expire October 24th, 2020.
I'll second.
Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Messer?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Stanford?
Aye.
Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Susan? Did you say nay?
I did.
letter of resignation from Ashley Hartung from the Herington Convention Bureau and Herington EDC boards.
Make a motion, we accept the letter of resignation from Ashley Hartung from the Herington Convention Bureau. Herington Convention Bureau and Herington EDC board.
Second. Discussion.
Visitor is missing that.
It is, no, there's, sorry,
I don't read good sometimes. Brenda?
Commissioner Nestle.
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn.
Aye.
Commissioner Stanton.
Aye.
Commissioner Hager.
Aye.
Mayor Smith.
Aye. Number 10, consider the appointment of one member to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to fill an unexpired term to expire April 30, 2019.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Cassie Moore to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to fill the chamber position, term to expire April 30th, 2019.
Second.
Did
Discussion?
she say anything about also filling, because the chamber normally has somebody on the EDC as well?
Yeah, her application is not like that. It did say.
Just SUV.
That's going to leave us for the whole on the EDC.
I'll try to
Check with her and see if she has it out there.
Yeah, and if not, maybe get it up on, well, is it
I
something
think
that has
it's
to
for
be a
that
chamber
that
position?
spot.
Director, chamber.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I'll have to check into that, see, if not, we'll have to figure out how to fill it.
She probably just
For
doesn't,
general or
she probably just doesn't know, so I'll do it.
Further discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Nestle.
Aye.
Commissioner Dunn.
Aye.